In yesterday's video, we were talking about how this bubble is most likely about to pop. And even though it's about to pop, we were really saying, hey, it looks like we're going to get a bounce today. And yesterday, that was tomorrow. But we're actually pretty much going to go through a bunch of these charts, and we're going to do some technical analysis for the SPY, Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, NVDA, and AMD. And we're really going to be paying attention to what we said yesterday and what happened today on these 30-minute charts. Let's get into it. Starting off with the SPY, we're getting closer and closer to that weekly expected move. Now the Qs are much closer to it, so the SPY getting to that weekly expected move, I don't know if that'll happen. Maybe the Qs will, though. They're literally right at it right now, just below it. But what were we saying yesterday? Well, we said there's mainly two scenarios here. Okay, so the one scenario was we're seeing this MACD behavior, we're seeing this curvature, and it looks like we really want to curl up in positive territory. When we curl up on the MACD in positive territory, get that crossing going, we'll see more positive price action, especially in an uptrend like we are. Now, if this wanted to break down, this is kind of the cool part about looking at what we said yesterday and seeing what happened today. Is if we just clone this and see if this is an actual flag, right? This looks like a pretty dang good flag at this point. We said how this would break down from here is it's going to most likely pop up, maybe come up a little bit higher and test the high, but most likely pop up, give us some kind of head, and then break down, giving us some kind of right shoulder. So then we'd have a little head and shoulders to then break down, and that was overall our bearish case. Now, our bullish case is what we're going to pay attention to because that's what actually happened today. So today we actually saw that that did happen where we did get that curvature of the MACD and we curled up in positive territory, and we were talking about forming some kind of divergence at these highs. And the coolest part about showing you guys the bearish case at the same time, leaving this flag up for a second, pulling it across, notice where the price action jumped to right away in the morning. Right away in the morning, we gap up to above where that flag would be, and we use it as some support at this point to hold a little bit higher. And then we overall just move sideways throughout the day, maybe consolidating for one more small push higher. And we'll talk about that in a moment, but it's just really, really cool to see how overall the stock market works and how this price action works. We gap up above the area where those sellers could really be, and we actually use that area as support to head higher, and that's what gave us our green day in the market today. The other cool thing that we can do once we do see today's price action is we can start to see more things develop. And right now we have this little trend line here, but if we actually connect the upside of this trend, we're going to notice that maybe we're forming some kind of ascending triangle, some kind of wedge, and we could drop out of that wedge. So we notice that we did get that curl up into positive territory. Now we're moving a little bit sideways. We still do have the potential for this to create a triple divergence. Let's tackle the bullish side first real quick. If we did see this want to break down for a few 30-minute bars here and then pop back up, we could use the monthly expected move as some resistance and actually see that start to fail from there with a triple divergence. At this point, you do have a single divergence here, or well, you have divergence here. And if that wants to curl over, you would be close to that negative territory, creating some kind of negative trend. Okay, so if we want to get a negative trend going, how would we exactly break down? And this would overall be the bearish case. Bullish case, you have just a little bit more upside. If we do get some more consolidation, I think you got a little more upside. But the bearish case would be if we want to break down out of this triangle, we would most likely bounce from an area like here, giving us a little head and shoulders in this area. And then we might even break down a little bit further to an important zone, an important area where we bounced from in the past, right? When we saw that kind of little bit of a dramatic sell-off for a quick moment there, quickly bought up from this area. So we want to mark that point as pretty important. And maybe we set up a overall bigger head and shoulders here, getting a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder, and then we see that breakdown. So if the SPY wants to break down over the next few days, I believe this is how it most likely will play out. If it wants to move a little bit higher first, we could see more consolidation tomorrow and then see a little bit bounce, maybe to test that monthly expected move. Now, we were saying about the Qs yesterday that it looked like we had some kind of triangle here, some kind of continuation triangle forming, and we do have that same similar MACD behavior where it looks like it wants to curl up into positive territory, meaning we could get some more positivity. Now, we gap up higher, we get that positivity, and we do have that weekly expected move right above us. So even though we're moving sideways here, if we do get some more consolidation, we could get a move higher above the weekly expected move. Excuse me. And what that would do is curl down this MACD, and then we'd curl back up in positive territory, get some more positivity up in this area, and create a triple divergence between these highs. Okay, so now we do have a divergence at this point. So if we want to start to break down and start a negative trend, great. We can pay attention to that. But because we've seen so much positivity, if we don't get any bad news behind this first divergence, we could go make another one and then look out for some bad news around the corner. So we do still need some bad news behind these divergences to flip the trend at this point. Apple was a little bit different take here because Apple's really been suffering over the last couple weeks or so. So we overall were just stating how we wanted some kind of cup to be formed, and it looks like a cup is formed and we got that handle and we were going to move higher. So we just stated the only difference with Apple was this might not be sustained very long. We could see this fade pretty quickly, and that's what happened as of today. Now, I still think we do have a shot to get outside of this important zone in here, but I really think that we only have as high as about 194. So once we get up, if we do get up to 194, I'll really be looking out for some kind of fading in this area to see if we can maybe come back and quickly cut through this zone. But at this point, this looks like a pretty positive thing. We're in positive territory. We're kind of getting this, slight up to sideways move, and we're really waiting for a pop in Apple very, very soon. So Apple really could go either way. It's also very close to negative territory as well. So really be paying close attention to Apple if you are trading it, because if this thing gets into negative territory, we have a potential to break an important trend line. We have the potential to test this low down here, and it might mean some bad things, especially when we look at the weekly charts this weekend. We'll really be able to understand why Apple would be a big deal if it started to break down from here. Moving on to Amazon, we were showing another continuation triangle. It had a good earning, so we really thought, hey, this curvature of the MACD, we're curling up into positive territory. We could see more positivity. Now, we did see a little bit of positivity, but it's not the most bullish at this point, right? We haven't seen a big bull side come in and really buy this thing up. So we really want to pay attention if we test this high, because we're not getting too much bullishness in as we break through this continuation triangle. So we want to pay attention in case there is some kind of double top, because we can't forget to the bearish side that we do still have that gap down here, and the MACD is very, very close to negative territory. So if we wanted to pop up and test this, or even pop up and make a new high, we would really pay attention to this divergence and see if it's able to get us into negative territory in the near future, starting some kind of negative trend. But it's pretty cool to look at yesterday, what we said, and overall what we've said so far has really been happening in the market. And, we got to give ourselves a pat on the back when we're right, okay? So just really pay attention to this MACD if it's able to get into negative territory. A lot of these stocks this week are going to be ones you want to pay very close attention to. Tesla, I'm going to switch to a 2-hour. We did see that green day we were talking about today because of this divergence down here was kind of our hint. We have a 2-hour divergence. You see that on the MACD and the RSI at the same time, and it's pretty dang steep. So when it's steep like that, I'm pretty confident to say, hey, we could see some kind of bullishness. Now, this hasn't curled over the daily that we were talking about. I like my 2-hour divergences because they like to curl over this daily. Hasn't happened yet, but it's very, very close. So you could be getting some kind of bounce out of Tesla soon. In order to get that full sustained bounce, I'd really be looking for us to complete some cupping up in here and get a handle and then head higher. If we wanted to head down from here, though, the bearish side would be we start to roll over soon. We start to roll over before we get into positive territory. You'll notice right here when we crossed into negative territory down here on the MACD, we see a big downward move. And that can happen the other way too. Once we're able to get into positive territory, we can see a bigger bullish move. So really to the bearish side, we want to pay attention. If this is able to curl over and kind of crack below this low, we could be seeing more negativity because we are in a negative trend. Now, NVDA today was pretty dang cool, and we were stating how yesterday we actually did make it past that weekly expected move. It is a very, very good tool, and you can use them every single week. It is down, and I give them for the individual stocks on my Patreon down in the description. And I'd love to have you there. And if you have any questions, you can message me there. But we saw this drop off right when we got to that weekly expected move. Now we do still have that curvature. We're still in positive territory on the MACD down here. So we were expecting some kind of bounce. And overall, I was stating, hey, most likely we're going to test this high and maybe not even make a new one just because of that weekly expected move being there. The good part about us making a new high is we still have that divergence intact. It hasn't confirmed yet. And we remember Amazon a couple weeks ago, it just kept trickling up, trickling up, trickling up until it finally confirmed. So I wouldn't jump the gun on anything like this. I would really wait for it to confirm. And sometimes you even wait for it to get into negative territory and really tell you, hey, we're going into a negative trend. So at this point, the bullish case would have to be if we actually break down a little bit and then curl back up, we get some kind of little reverse head and shoulders in here to head higher. We can head a little bit higher, but I'm a little hesitant with that as we are already past the weekly expected move, and we got 2 more days left of trading. The bearish take would be we're going to confirm this divergence, start going into negative territory, take out this low, and begin that negative trend in NVIDIA, which I believe because NVIDIA has gone up so fast over the last couple months, it could get a little bit ugly. AMD, we're paying attention to this big continuation triangle we've been forming, and we really said there's kind of 2 scenarios here. Maybe we get something like here in this price action where we're able to cross up into positive territory. You notice once we get into positive territory, right about here-ish, we actually do get that gap up and we see some more positivity. But in this case, we have not gotten into positive territory. So the bullish thing we were paying attention to, yes, we said we'd most likely bounce from here, but is that bounce going to be sustained and get into positive territory to break the upside of this continuation triangle? Or to the bearish side, is it just going to curl over once it gets near positive territory to then break the downside of this continuation triangle? So we really want to pay attention to both sides on AMD. You're still in an area where AMD does not look the strongest at this point. So if you do get a break either way, really, most likely if you do get some kind of hip fire break to the upside, really pay attention to this high. We could get that as some kind of fake out and fade down and come back into this and really take our time here. But really, this is what we want to pay attention to, that crossing of the MACD to the bearish side and that getting into positive territory to the bullish side. As we get into TLT, we wanted to point out that difference between the smart money and the dumb money. And on the left here, we do have TLT, and on the right, we do have the SPY, okay? So we want to pay attention to this because you'll notice that the TLT actually at this point created a high and started to come down, and at the same time, we created some kind of low for the SPY and started to head higher. And that difference between smart money and dumb money, when you actually see that sloping down while the stock market is still going up, that is a signal we really pay attention to, and we've seen that over the last few days. So we really have to pay attention to this, especially going into, these areas of resistance, these areas of overbought conditions, these areas of a bunch of divergences. It's just a good point to really pay attention to signals like this and just be like, hey, maybe I need to take my foot off the gas a little bit. So TLT here, you just notice that as we start coming down, we see little pops and we keep coming lower, and now we're getting some sideways movement, but we are near that negative territory. So that could curl over and go even lower. Meanwhile, the market is actually, if you want to follow the left at the same time, the market is actually making an upward move. And this is the signal that we really pay attention to. When there is a big difference between TLT and the SPY, we really need to pay attention to. And I thought it was very clear to see on this 30-minute chart. So I thought I'd pull it up for you guys. The big point to this is dumb money is really selling off. So before big news, we noticed TLT kind of moves sideways before that news, and sometimes the SPY moves up a little bit, and then TLT will catch up if that's good news. But we're not seeing TLT really move sideways. We're seeing TLT make a dramatic move down while the market actually makes a dramatic move up. And that is a sell signal we need to pay attention to. VIX, we were stating how we're still within this range, right? We're still in this big range here. And every time we get to the bottom of that range, we see spikes of volatility, right? So we need to pay attention to the bottom of this range. And we were always stating, hey, I'm looking for a 30-minute divergence at the bottom of this range. And right now it looks like we're starting to form that divergence. So we need to pay attention to it. We do have this curling up of the MACD in negative territory. If we go down just a little bit lower, getting a little pop in the market maybe, then we could see some divergence form and then see volatility spike right at the bottom side of this range. Now, if it wants to break, we would really pay attention to that 1212. That's where we really see volatility spikes come in pretty dramatically. So if we get to 1212, maybe we're getting a little bit more of a blow off top. I mean, NVIDIA's already blowing off its top right now, but maybe we get a little bit more of a blow off top, and then we see volatility come in with some bad news. So we do have that 30-minute divergence forming. The only other thing I wanted to mention was another sell signal we pay attention to on this channel, which is you notice that the VIX, and just think of this real quick, the VIX is really dropping off. It's down 1.76% today. And then we go and look at the VVIX, and let's look at this. Well, that's interesting because the VVIX is actually popping today. So when the VVIX pops, sometimes the VVIX warns you before volatility comes in or the potential for volatility to be around the corner. Now, this is on a 30 minutes, so that would mean, volatility could come in over the next couple days. It doesn't mean it has to. It's just a signal you want to pay attention to and be very prepared in case that volatility comes in because the VVIX is saying, hey, volatility could come in over the next couple of days. So the VVIX actually was up 4.64%. That is nothing to shy away from. That is a very, very good move for the VVIX, especially when the VIX was down 1.76%. So we do have another signal to add to our little folder of signals at this point, these folder of sell signals. We have the dumb money versus smart money, the TLT dropping while the SPY moves higher, and then we also have the VVIX making a big move up while the VIX itself makes that continued move down. So it's a time to be a little bit cautious, a time to be prepared in case that volatility comes in over the next few days. The main takeaway here is that yesterday we were talking about some kind of bounce in a lot of these stocks, and it looks like we got a lot of those bounces. So give yourself a pat on the back. I hope you were able to take advantage of some of those. Even though we're getting these bounces, we're still setting up those divergences that are getting us close to negative territory, and we have those sell signals forming at this point that we have to pay attention to. So be prepared in case any volatility comes in over the next couple days. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm still adjusting to having my baby girl here, but she's sleeping pretty soundly right now, and she likes my voice for the most part. So I think she likes when I do these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. You guys are always great. I wish you all the luck in the world trading the rest of the week, and I hope you guys have a great night.